Wawu. Once again, welcome to the third edition of this show, your one and only talk show with a twist. And by twist, we mean controversy. We ask the questions you are too afraid to ask, the deepest, most compelling and untold questions, to allow you see a side of your guest you have not seen until now. We inquire, you could almost say we snoop, and that's what makes this show one you wouldn't want to miss. Ready for today's show? Let's get right into it then. Our guest on today's show is no stranger to the TIS community. She's a TIS veteran, the HOD of the Language Department, and a former hostel parent. Without further ado, help me welcome our guest for today's show, Miss Irene Koree.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Miss Koree, for agreeing to be on today's edition of the show.
You're welcome.
To start off, your students, our viewers want to know, why is your voice so teeny tiny?
Okay, I'm not sure I did anything about that. I could only say that I was gifted with it if it is positive, and then probably burdened with it if it is negative. But that's how it's been from childhood. And not being a boy, it didn't break along the line. So that's how it's been, and that's what I've been managing, hopefully, till now.
How is your surname actually pronounced? I hear people say Miss Koree, Miss Koree, Miss Koree, different pronunciations.
Yeah.
How is it actually pronounced?
I appreciate that, and sometimes I laugh about it. But my surname is Koree, and it's an Akan name, which means eagle. So it's a tree name for eagle, and if you know the tree name for eagle, that's what it is.
Okay. How many years have you been teaching for?
I don't like answering that question because I know people will now begin to do calculations and find out
Your age.
Yes, and nobody ever believes me when I tell them how old I am. But for purposes of this show, let me say I have taught for over 20 years, a little over 20 years. So I've been in TIS. I think this is my 16th year in TIS.
Oh, I see. Wow. Okay. Coming to the school, I came to find out that you were a former hostel parent for the Cecilia hostel, I believe. Mm-hmm. What made you quit being a hostel parent?
Quit? No, I didn't. I didn't quit. I was given the opportunity to serve as the head of departments for the English department then, and so it was more of an administrative decision based upon a request that if it is possible I be taken out so that I can manage that responsibility better, because juggling the two could be a bit daunting, and it was agreed on. It wasn't as if I was fed up with it and I wanted to leave. No.
Funny enough, that was the question I was going to ask you next. Were you the HOD at the time that you moved from hostel parent to? Okay,
so I was not, whilst I was hostel parent. And the moment the HOD, responsibility came in, like I said, I had to step down from here so I could.
That's interesting to know. The next question is, what do you make of students being disengaged or not seeing the essence of language and literature? Because you pass by and people are like, oh, I have language. Dang, I don't want to have language. Or things like that. Or people are not really engaged or participative in your classes or in language classes in general in the entire TIS.
Yeah, it's a challenge that I have had to cope with over the years. It's an unfortunate situation that people do not realize that if you have a vehicle, an effective vehicle for communication, you are almost on top of all situations. So to speak, I've had to tell students that even Ghana once had a president who was very eloquent, and so his eloquence almost always blew people away, we didn't really, I was tempted to think that we didn't really think of the substance of his presentations first. We were carried away by his eloquence. Maybe it was later down the line that if some critical eye looked at what he said, we came out and realized, no, he shouldn't have said this. And I, being a language person, kind of attributed his, influence over his listeners to his eloquence. And so I cite it as an example for people to take language and literature seriously, not only because it's a requirement for academic success, but it's also a means by which you can make an impact wherever you are, a means by which you can speak your mind, a means by which you can communicate clearly and get people to come along with you, even if what you're saying is not that convincing. And so it's an unfortunate situation. But sometimes I empathize with students because it's a bit challenging. Studying language can be challenging. And especially when you feel that you don't really need it for your future career or advancement or studies. But if we look at it from the right perspective, I think that we should get serious into it. And I feel that it's okay if you think it's not important, but if a teacher comes in to support you, to let you recognize that it is important, it will do you a lot of good to begin to see things from the teacher's perspective, so to speak, and then put yourself to it. So sometimes students are actually engaged. I've enjoyed some year groups so much. And I've always cited them as an example where we can take a walk to the sports complex, and what we are talking about is our literature text, because they have so read, they understood it so well, and it's a conversation that we are having. But there are also the times when it's not so good a story to tell, but it's all part of the job, so we manage.
And most students, when they hear the word analysis in language and literature, they run. They run away from all of that, but we are working on it. It's a course. How does it feel to be the HOD? I'm looking for one word, but maybe I can't manage that. So it's a mixed bag. Let me call it that way. It's a mixed bag. Daunting, bottom line, but exciting too and rewarding most of the time, especially when the year has been tough, when members have felt sometimes you understand that the team members are just tired, but you have to drag them along. And sometimes they are very energetic and up to the task, and they respond to even, a gesture of some sort. And yet there are other times when they are very tired, humanly speaking, and you still have to pull them along. But like I said, the rewarding part is when, after all of these, the results are in, and it's 100%, including some very pleasant surprises from students who were struggling to hold on to a 4. And then they make a 6 or a 5, and you all, jubilate, And then there's also the times when we laugh and cackle, There's one thing people don't know. People who teach English have a certain, call it weird, sense of humor. We laugh at things that people don't find funny. And so a few of the times such things come up in discussions and collaborations and so on, and we enjoy ourselves as a team. So that's it. It's a mixed bag. So if you could trade roles with any other HOD in TS, math, arts, science, who would it be and why?
I'm sure you don't want my team to get angry with me. So, and I mean this, I think I am happy with my team. I would always want to work with them.
That's nice. In Ghana, there's a current push for the anti-LGBTQI bill. What is your stance, bill or no bill, and why?
Let me begin on this note. Because I'm saying this, and maybe you understand my reason. I do not hate any LGBTQ plus person or whatever organization, community. It is not and never will be on the premise of hate that I speak my mind. The reason I am making this emphatic statement is that I have observed very much to my chagrin that anytime you say something that is in opposition to what the community, the LGBT community believes, they tag you as hateful. I've listened to interviews. I mean, a couple of people interview the member of parliament who is leading the group that is pushing for this bill as either being hateful or pushing for the enactment of a hateful bill. And so that's why I'm saying. Now, having said that, I think that the TIS community, I am hoping that they can identify me as a Christian. So first of all, that is the ground upon which I am coming. I do not see anywhere in the Bible that God created people as homosexuals. So that argument for me falls flat. It is just one of those things that we encounter in life, like a problem or anything that shows up, and how we resolve it is what is landing us where we are. When we were all growing up, if you had brothers, or if you've ever had a brother, young as they are, sometimes you wear your dress and they're like, "Mommy, I want a dress too." That's normal. They will grow out of it. But it's unfortunate that the aggression with which this community is pushing the agenda is now beginning to go into absurdities, like if you see a male child yearning for a dress or yearning for earrings, then it means they might have been created like that. And so some have gone to extents of taking them to doctors to now begin to prescribe hormonal medications for children when they know that it is unethical. Okay, so the bill, yes, and the reason is I do not think it is right for a group of people to push their agenda with so much aggression. So much aggression. I believe that if something is good, sometimes you don't even need to talk about it. You just go about it and then people get attracted. What makes me find everything fishy with this LGBT community is the aggression with which they are pushing the agenda, such that now they want to enact bills in some countries where supposed comprehensive sexual reproduction, whatever, is taught to KG people. And they are pushing for the fact that a baby, a child, a toddler, whoever, should not be told whether they are a boy or a girl. They should be allowed to grow, and then when they grow up, they decide. I think recently a group of pastors on the west coast of British Columbia have, voice to ask that I think in Canada they call it SOGI. It's a course they do for the KG, the primary school or whatever. They have pushed in a word that they want that scrapped. Hungary has done a similar thing, and I think that it is time for Ghana to look at it. The reason I'm also for the bill is that in it is also protection and call it tolerance and accommodation for the LGBT family. I mean, stories have been told about people storming venues where two gays or whatever were having a wedding and they almost lynched them in Ghana, up somewhere in the eastern region on the mountain there. And so I think that this bill has a clause that cites such things as crimes, so that if you lynch somebody or you harass them simply because they are LGBT, you also could go to court. And for me, that's the other side of the bill. That is good. And that is also telling us that we are not against you. We don't hate you. We just don't want you to push your agenda too hard into our faces that we destroy our society. And I don't think Ghana is a country where we have enough troubles. We don't want that one in addition, because definitely it comes with a lot of social. If you take an interest in them, you see that anybody who goes into it, it's because it starts with abuse from home, and then it goes into, and then later on it becomes depression and violence and jealousy and so on. It doesn't, from my perspective, it doesn't have anything good to offer. But I am surprised that people want it by all means. But I pray that Ghana will do the right thing.
Thank you so much for your opinion. And if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Do I have? Well, if I could have any superpower, maybe the power. It's a funny one for me because I ever watched a movie where what I saw was funny and ridiculous, but then it made a lot of sense. But if I had any power, I would look for the power to touch the suffering, or, the people who are suffering. Sometimes it's hard, especially families who are struggling to make ends meet, and you see them and they mean well, but they just can't help it. And I wish there was a way that I could have the power to do that. But with it will come the responsibility of making sure that you don't, the movie I was talking about, I think the title is Elvin Almighty or something like that. He complains he wants to be God, and then God says, okay, let's trade places. Be God for, a period of time. And then he goes supposedly onto the computer of requests that people have put before God. And then he reads through this person, and then he says, he just types and presses enter. And then so all requests are granted at the same time. And the chaos and confusion that, resulted out of every prayer being answered at the same time. So it gave me another perspective that it's not probably just about superpower to grant wishes, but it's also about the ability to know which one would do good to people. And that is a big thing. So I don't know if I have answered your question. The power to help, yes, but the power to also know which one will actually be helpful.
We believe the one thing most of your DP2s or they put forward is they want to know if you have kids. Do you mind sharing?
Oh yes, I can share. I don't have kids of my own because obviously I'm not married. And I haven't come up, I'm not saying that I'm so holy, but I haven't come up against a situation where I've been tempted to go into what to make me have a kid without a husband. So that is my life. But I do take care of my sister's kid now, and I'm happy to do that, except that it comes with challenges that I never envisaged. So I'm probably learning along the line.
Can you describe a game that you used to play as a child that you feel children of today have missed out on?
I'm not sure I can remember the name, but since it's a description, I would attend because it's been a long time. I wasn't a very playing type, but I managed to play along the line. But it's one of those that will bring into focus your psychomotor, abilities, your alertness, and then that kind of thing, your aggression and commitment to getting. So there were two circles, the outer and the inner, and then in the outer there were divisions, and then everybody who was interested in playing the game picked call it an abbreviation, ASP, blah blah blah. So that was your name for that game, and somebody, usually there could be an umpire or one of you will stand in the middle of a circle, the open space, and mention one abbreviation. So if it's ASP, the moment the person says ASP, you, the one who is ASP, you will have to be listening, be very alert. So when it says ASP, everybody will be running away, and you will have to jump into the middle and say stop. Now, if you don't do that quickly enough, people will go very far. So the essence is for you to be alert and then to also be agile. So when you hear your abbreviation, you jump into the middle and scream stop. People stop at wherever they are. And then you look around and decide on who you want to catch, who is closest, because you're allowed to take only 3 long strides to catch the person. If you fail, then you have to come and repeat the process until you are able to catch somebody, and then the person replaces you. So that was fun. That was running, screaming here and there, trying to make sure you are not the one who is caught and that kind of thing. And so that's just one of the many outdoor games we used to play at that time.
If you could read the minds of TIS students, what do you think you'd discover?
Discover? I'm sure I'll discover a lot. And truth be told, sometimes I empathize with students. I think that whenever I've had the opportunity to talk sincerely, either to a person or to a group, they know that I won't take certain things, but they also know that I keep telling them I empathize with them, because I acknowledge the fact that there's so many things thrown at the young person of today, and some obviously enter the mind. They don't go out, they stay there. They are processed. They interfere with other things that are important. And they come out in the form of images, thoughts, philosophies, whatever. So I'll probably discover questions about how to manage certain situations. I'll probably discover things that will not make me too happy. Call them addictions to certain things that don't help. I'll probably discover displeasure for the places in which they find themselves in. I would also hopefully discover very happy students who are enjoying the IB program, who have the opportunities that I didn't have, who are going into school play, into this. An example is what you're doing. I teach English, and probably if I had had the opportunity to do more communication with people, it would have taken me on a certain tangent that I don't know what would have happened. Not that I don't like what I am doing, but maybe it would have brought out more potential in me. So I also I hope that I also discover that kind of mentality if I could look into the minds of TIS students.
Okay. If you were given $1 billion today, what would you use it to do and why?
You're pushing me to behave like one kid I saw on America's Got Talent. That he was asked, if you won the prize, what would you do with it? And she goes like, oh, I'll buy clothes for children who are without clothes. I'll buy food for those who are suffering. I'll buy, and so on. It seems cliche, right? That everybody thinks that when they get money, they will help people who are suffering. And so maybe I don't need to say that one. I don't know. But that is what is on my mind. I mean, that's my heart's desire. And if you had a way of asking God, he will tell you that's what it is. That I've always asked for, oh God, I wish I could get more money. Give me more money so that I can do this for this person. I can do that for that person. So that everybody will kind of be happy. I spoke to a student who says that there was a conversation and she butts in and she says, Miss Koree, isn't life about getting more money and being comfortable? And I said, oh, no. You got it wrong. You got it wrong. Because what is comfort in itself? It doesn't stay at one place. So without the intention of sounding cliche, genuinely, that's my desire. I would use it to do all that I can to help as much people. Of course, use some for myself if there is the need, but more important for people. I don't believe in designer things, for example. They are nice, fine. If it fits me, fine, it's nice, good. But a bag costing $1,000, $2,000, for what? When somebody is suffering, you understand what I am saying. I hope I am not trying to make myself look good. It's with all humility that I say this.
What about if you had $1 billion and you lost it in a single day, by chance? What would you do?
God forbid though. But money is money. Without intention of sounding weird and out of this world, sometimes to calm myself down and to avoid the situation of getting frantic over things, I've had to repeat to myself, what is yours will come to you. What is yours will come to you. It might look not the order of a day, because people have mantras like, if you want it to happen, go out and get it, that kind of thing. But sometimes those things put us under unnecessary pressure. So, God forbid, if I lost $1 billion, I got it and I lost it. In the first place, it wasn't with me originally. It came from somewhere. So if it went away, what can you do but to calm yourself down? It would be such a big blow, but you need to get over it. For maybe it is only leaving for $2 billion to come back later.
Growing up, did you have a nickname? What was it? And do you have one at the moment?
I was so boring. I don't remember anybody ever thinking of giving me a nickname. And when I say boring, quite withdrawn. It was not until later when I went to do my national service outside of home that I started opening up and interacting with people. Not that I didn't talk, but I was to myself in my house, and that's it. So not much of nicknaming here and there. Now, when I came to TIS, yes, I remember there was this student who used to give me a lot of trouble, and so he was forcing a nickname down my throat. But unfortunately, he was using my surname, and I kept telling him that is my father's name, so you cannot do that to it. So gradually it died. It didn't pick up. So that's about nicknaming. Maybe nobody thought that I deserved one.
Having taught a bit of TOK for some time now, what's the most shocking thing you've discovered?
I think that TOK is tough for students, and even for me as a new teacher. I've had to learn a few things, and sometimes I feel that, oh wow, the kids must be suffering. And especially now that we are working on our essay, a very intriguing part of the whole process is when you have to make a claim and make a counterclaim, and sometimes the counterclaim can shift to another subject or can be within the same subject kind of thing. Juggling all those, structures together, I think is a bit challenging. I've not taught it for too long as to come up against what I would consider shocking, but I would simply describe them as intriguing things, and then moments of, call it times of, I'll simply call them epiphanies, like realization coming to me that, oh, okay, this is that, and so on. And I sometimes feel, I have gradually come to learn that much as TOK is supposed to inform me as an IB teacher and as a learner, there are certain issues that you cannot bring TOK into. They are too serious to be, let there in the balance, saying it could be this and it could be that. It has got to be one of them because it concerns your life and what should happen.
And what's the most shocking or intriguing thing, if you may, that you've heard a TOK student profess?
Have I heard any such that will shock me? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about TOK. Something shocking. No, I haven't really heard about that. I think that what I would rather say I've seen students appreciate is how very, very close TOK is to us and our daily, interactions. That the knower is at the center of the whole process, of the whole subjects and the explorations there. And the knower himself or herself is very complex because he or she is under the influence of culture, and culture involves parenting, upbringing, religion, so many other things. And sometimes we are so die-hard in our opinions without realizing that we are saying that because of what we have been exposed to. And so maybe the other person must also be listened to because they have been exposed to something different. So that bit of it is what makes TOK exciting to me. That a consciousness of the fact that perspectives are different and they matter and they must be accommodated.
So as a child or growing up, was there that one subject you wish never existed? Or that one subject you wish could have just whipped out of the curriculum and said goodbye to?
Okay. When I was growing up, it was okay from primary school. Then I went to secondary school and then mathematics became an issue for me. But I now look back and I realize I could have done better. Because somewhere in Form 2, there was this Japanese lady who came to teach us mathematics. And her main topic was logic. Yeah, logic. And for some strange reason, I understood it so well. I topped the class that term. And so, but at that age, topping the class didn't really speak much to me. I just thought it was it. And then the next time I attempted and I wasn't topping the class, so then I give up. But if I had known what I know now about pushing and, working at things, no matter how many times you feel, blah, 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 and all of those things that I know, maybe I would have done better. And it was a necessity, so there was nothing I could do. But I sailed through it and then managed to continue my education, because then without mathematics you couldn't go forward. So once I am here, it means that I managed something, and then I am here.
What was the most difficult season of your life, and how did you get through it? Do you have any advice for anyone who might be going through?
Let me begin on this note. I come from a very humble background. And somewhere in secondary school, my dad lost his job, and it was hard because then school fees were due, exam fees were due, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't funny. And there were times I had to learn how to pray and cry to God for interventions. And there were really, really terrible times I don't even want to remember. Hard times. But God being good, He lifted us gradually from there, one step after the other, until I was able to enter the university, and then I started working, and then I came over to Tema, and things had eased out. And my mom, during those hard times, was a force to reckon with, a formidable force. She did everything she could. And so when I started working, and she was beginning to have some, she was tired. It was obvious that she had worn herself out. So I said, take a break, come live with me. So that's what it was for how many years of the last part of her life. Until one day, right here, she was unwell. We thought it was ordinary malaria. We went to the hospital, and within 5 days, I had lost her. It was sudden. It took me a long time to accept the fact that she was gone. Yeah. The funeral had to happen, and I'm the first child, so I had to organize, do this. So during that period, it was focusing on the funeral, making sure everything goes well. And God being good, everything went well. But then afterwards, I almost always woke up with tears in my eyes, because then it dawned on me that, oh, she's gone. She would not come and knock on my door and say, Auntie, going to school today, what is happening? All of that was gone. All the many things that I could have done with her, now, they are all gone. And for years, it's been some time now, I think this is a city also. For years, 2, 3, 4 years, even now, depending on what we are talking about, if I mention her name, tears will up in my eyes. But I had to accept the fact that she was gone for good. And I reflected, and then I rejoiced in the fact that for the last few years of her life, about 10 or so years, I did for her what I could do. And I was thankful for that. I wish I could do more, but she's no more. So if it's in terms of advice, let me say that I pray that nothing of a sort happens to anybody. At the time when I wrote her tribute, I said so because I was in the hospital and I saw her going. And the doctors, I don't want to even go into that. It was funny. And I couldn't even stand on my legs were giving way as I saw her die. And it's not anything I pray for anybody to go through, because it's a terrible experience. I pray that God will keep everybody's loved one to the point where they are prepared to let them go before they go. And I would say that in any such circumstance, for me, I had to come to myself and look up to God. And then again reflect and tell myself, I did for her what I could while she was alive. And then if there's anything else I wished I could do for her, which I couldn't do, I could find somebody and do that thing for. that person, an old person who needs help or something, so that it brings the fulfillment that I wish I could have had from doing it from my mother. That's how I've managed. And then you try and focus on the good more than the bad.
So what's your favorite memory or moment in history?
History?
Yes, history. History.
I can talk about a lot, so I'm not sure about which one is a favorite. But talking about TIS, I think that I can talk about a time when a particular IGCSE batch or class, which later I think became class of 2015 in their IB year, got the best results we had ever had, and it was so much joy. And the same group came into DP, and they organized the 10th anniversary or so, and they were the group that I said we could take a walk to the sports complex and be talking about our literature book and discussing which character did this and what. They were such an amazing group. I'll never forget them. So I would say that the time when they got the best result for the school, of course the record has been broken from last year's record. It's been broken. I think that was the best moment. I won't talk about last year because for me it's not history enough. It's just still in the present for me. So that's about TIS history, and yeah. And I think that in terms of Ghana's history, the momentous, happening that I could recall is when Ghana was returned to constitutional rule. And the reason was that when I was growing up, it was military rule. And where we were living, every now and then, when there's a coup, there was so much chaos, because of the kind of people who were living there. Or I have no idea. But I remember that you could be there one Sunday afternoon, and then a helicopter would just hover over the houses, supposedly looking for somebody who has embezzled some fund or something. I don't know what it is. And it was obey before complain, and curfews and whatever. So it was more of a culture of silence eventually, emerging out of all of this chaos. And eventually when Ghana switched to constitutional rule, I think it was a big thing. It was a big thing. As a child now, I could, as I had, feared those moments of my childhood, now I realize that, oh, thank God they are gone. They will not happen again. So that's about the history of Ghana.
Okay. There's a boy in your DP2 Langley's SL class who you call the most, like you call his name the most. Can you tell me who this is?
Is this Senor?
He really wanted to find this.
Whether I know that he's the one I called the most.
Well, it was actually somebody else in the class who wanted to be sure that you like.
I think I can guess who it is who asked this question. Is it Lehman?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
According to your students, your all-time mannerism is, I always tell my students. Is it true?
I am not sure, but maybe it is if it's coming from them. They are observing. So maybe. I haven't been conscious of it, but I'm grateful to know.
How have you managed to handle all the stress you have experienced?
Do I even know? I think we carry stress upon stress until we can carry it no more, and then we just let it go. But I like withdrawing from all the hustle and bustle and then going into my closet. So sometimes I really look forward to vacation. If I can get just a few days to stay indoors, not interact with anybody, not talk with anybody, even if I'm just lying down and brooding, I'm listening to music, I'm reading, or I'm just there, I'm fine for a while. Because I will think, I'll meditate, I'll strategize, and I'll come back. I'm not the very outdoor person, unfortunately. So I don't necessarily handle stress by going out, even though I've had those suggestions from people that, oh, go out to this place. Fine, if it is to a serene place to breathe in, some, serenity, fine. But interactions with people, all in the name of relaxing, is not my thing. Maybe I'll learn it later.
Okay, so the last question is, what do you do on your during the weekends?
Anything that is urgent and necessary. Yeah, ranging from coming to school to teach if I must, because if there's something pending, sometimes I arrange to come. Going for funeral, wedding, doing the normal house chores, marketing, running around. And then, of course, like I said, depending on how I feel, too stressed, I just cut off everything and I stay indoors for a while before I come out again. And of course, there'll be church on Sunday, so that's also another important. But I'm planning on adding a couple more, visiting a few more people more, because it's been too much of work, and me. So now it has to be a bit more of other people. I pray I'm able to do that.
Thank you so much, Miss Koree, for featuring on today's episode. We have come to the end of the third edition of Couch Controversy. Thank you and bye.